This week on Bonehead, we're wearing funny hats. And that's it, really. We don't really have an episode of what we can talk about. Well, yours is pretty funny.
Actually, no, Chad wore that before we...
Holy cow! Who cut off Cookie Monster's head and put it on top of that cancer patient?
I was going to say,
God.
James Thomas looking like every single guest on a Phil Donahue show.
I'm donating $5 to the American Cancer Society. I am so sorry.
Awareness or research? Because I'm pretty sure people know cancer exists.
Okay, yeah, that.
And I'm Ken Boggle.
Yeah, well, I was going to introduce you. I'm just going to wait till we talk to all this shit.
What?
And then, so that you're... Because we didn't want to piss off your fans.
So Ken's been introduced, right?
Yeah, hold on.
Hat
That's
off.
Ken Boggle. I got little balls.
Yes,
Dangling in my face. Welcome to Bonehead.
Good.
Did you like it?
I love that.
Welcome to Little Ball. How do you know?
Thanks
To
What
the people who listen to the podcast, that was hilarious.
yeah, absolutely. I've
And
got
you
a
should
hat.
subscribe
What
on
kind of hat do
YouTube.
you call this?
A mariachi hat.
That is a mariachi hat.
Oh, really?
Now,
Yeah.
now what's a bandolero?
The
That's
guy
one of the
never
big
called
ones?
back.
What did you say? The guy that never calls back?
The guy I never called back.
Oh. Do you need me to come do your hair? Where's that makeup lady? You look good. What are you fussing about? You
Well,
look
divorce
good.
is going to do great things for me, kids. Great things.
Oh, let's not talk about the D word.
It's going to do great things, I promise.
So
Dick.
just getting the ground rules. You were fine bringing up cancer multiple times.
Yeah, because you really don't have cancer yet. That was horrible.
I mean,
Damn.
I don't know that I do. If
You
I
all
do.
got more vicious since the last time I've been here.
I don't think it's more
The
vicious.
fuck is happening in this house?
Really? It's just hate and rage.
This house is unclean.
This house is clean on Tuesdays.
But unfortunately, this
It
isn't
is a
Tuesday.
Thursday. It is unclean. Well, so, Ken, it's been a while since we've had you back.
Yes.
Do you realize
Mm-hmm.
you and Mick Strawn are the only two people who have been on Bonehead who've been on Bonehead 3 times apiece?
I didn't realize that, but
And so, I shouldn't get off to it, but that obviously means that you're one of our favorite people to have on Bonehead. Because there's other people, believe it or not, who have asked to be back, who we haven't necessarily had back yet. We may someday. There's a couple of people who've brought it up.
Okay.
Am I one of those people?
No, it's not you. Get over
You
there.
just keep showing
Shut
up.
up, Big C. See, you ruined it. You ruined it. So I want you to know you're one of our, not only one of our great friends, but one of our favorite guests.
well, I do a lot of my thinking while shampooing what little bit of hair I have.
Oh, you have all kinds of hair.
And
Especially your man. Sorry, keep going.
did you see my grinder? Because now
I just got an account. I'm looking to
Right.
change up.
Great, I'm going to tap that.
Okay.
So I was
Swipe right?
Not on grinder. You
Oh.
get to tap. And
I
then
don't
you-
even know how any of that works.
We'll talk about it later.
I need to get tapped on grinders.
So anyway, I was washing my hair,
Right.
and I was thinking to myself, I hope eventually one day they ask me to be an honorary bonehead.
You are an honorary bonehead.
Yeah.
Well, then objective achieved.
You're our
I'm
first
super
guest.
happy.
You are our first guest we ever had on the show.
And that makes me so unbelievably proud. And you know how many times I watched that episode? At least I've seen it at least 7 times.
I've never watched it that many times. It's not anything against you. Would you believe I watched them once?
I would believe that you at least
Once.
had them playing while you were doing something
That's
else.
about what I do.
That's
Chad,
right.
you're about the same.
No, I listen to a few every now and then. Repeats.
James?
The ones that I think we did really strong on, so I can improve see if I can improve myself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I tend to watch them once, and usually it's just so I can watch what I do. Just to explain. No.
God, it looks so good.
No.
For the
No.
big city.
No. That.
John, you have to stop.
That has never been the reason. It's usually actually because I'm my worst critic, or I'm going
I
back
don't
to
know.
see.
Have you seen the shit I've been writing about you?
I was say, or I'm going back to see. Now, why are people tagging me on Facebook to say, James, why did you? And I go back and be like, no, I did it. There it is. That's what they're talking about.
So do you watch them more than once?
Certain episodes I go back. Actually, I watched the first episode with Ken a couple different times. Simply because I love those episodes. Episodes that literally make me go back and laugh myself or feel engaged.
Yeah.
I go back
Haley
and watch.
sees them the most probably because she edits all of them and listens to them all. But do you ever go back and listen or watch them after you're done and post them?
Every once in a while, yes.
Really?
Yes.
So, okay, I'm the a-hole that is the only one. I watch them once, and that's usually... I'm sure I've watched one of them more than once, but I don't... I'd like to go back later when this is all said and done. Does that make sense? 'Cause
So
it'll
as of this
eventually-
Wait a
episode,
minute. I don't like how you phrase that.
Is the Big C canceled?
No, the Big C's not canceled.
I don't
Well,
no, I'm pretty sure that
I
show
don't
was
like how
canceled.
you-
Actually,
I don't like
Oh
how
my
you phrase
God.
it.
I'm sorry. Well,
Because you're leaving room for it to be over, and I don't think that that's appropriate.
nothing lasts forever, which is not what I want to talk about this. But yes, I do. I mean, eventually,
If you start singing Sugar Ray when it's over, that's the time I fall in love again. I'm
eventually,
gonna have to.
not to be depressing, I'd like to go back and watch it then. I don't know. Now we're getting into
Yeah.
this. Isn't what
we're not even talking about it. We haven't even talked about the topic of the show.
Oh, right.
Oh
right,
yeah, that's right. You washing your hair.
Right.
Hair care products on today's
I have
Bonehead.
to say though, that's usually when I play your all's episodes is when I'm in the shower. Like I'll be like
You've
flossing,
said that before.
and I'll be in the shower or something like that, and like that's when I'll listen or watch the
Why
Boneheads.
while you're in the shower?
Did anybody notice he said he flosses? Why you floss while you're in the
Twice
shower?
Well, no. I mean, it said either while I'm flossing or in the
Okay,
Yeah.
So I
because
mean,
you were
I floss-
freaking me out there.
I floss twice a day.
Why
so.
would he be freaking out if he's gives a turkey?
I
if
do
he's-
sometimes.
Do you floss in the shower?
No, I don't
James,
even do
you
it during
floss
the
in the
day.
shower?
Joe doesn't even floss.
Yeah, no,
What are you talking
You
about?
don't floss?
I don't floss as much as I
Joe.
should.
That piece of roast beef in between his
Do
teeth,
you floss?
1984. Yes, of course I floss.
Okay.
I floss. I just should
I
floss,
floss
more.
and I water pick.
I floss anally.
Yeah.
Did you say anally?
Yes,
Here we
that's
go.
what I
That's
said.
totally what I heard.
That's
Actually,
exactly
what did
I
you
said.
hear,
Sad to
James?
say. I actually heard exactly what you heard, Joe, and that makes me
I
both
floss-
ashamed and sad.
Anally. Which, weird. How do you get that to work?
I want to know what the topic of today's show is.
Chocolate chip cookies and Halloween.
Halloween.
It is exorcisms.
Yes.
So, how many exorcisms have you performed?
I have never performed a real exorcism.
Damn.
However, I've been present, and we must talk about the difference between the following: for not an exorcism, but a deliverance.
Well, I don't know the difference.
We should talk about it.
There's a banjo.
That's an obscure 70s movie joke, yes.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yes, it's all Burt Reynolds.
Burt
May
Reynolds.
rest in peace.
Burt Reynolds.
And who else is in that? Beatty,
Ned
right?
Beatty, John
Yeah.
Boyd, and the guy who got thrown out of a building.
So I've not really been.
RoboCop.
Kurtwood
Villain.
Smith?
No,
No.
he's in it.
Holy shit, what is his
What's
name?
I forgot.
I know his name. Sorry, go ahead.
But I've never really, and this only occurred to me today, that I've never really been present for like a full-on exorcism.
So-
Now I've studied them, and I've studied them for years and years and years. But I've never been present when one has gone down.
Why are you so fascinated with exorcisms?
I think because when I was a kid, I saw The Exorcist way too soon.
I did too. Did we talk about this on the last episode? I don't know if I've shared this with the family, but my mom and dad divorced when I was 11. And my mom showed it to me when I was 12, and I think I was probably too
I
young.
think I was like 9.
Yeah.
And right,
That is
not
definitely too
not
young.
appropriate.
No.
And since then, I tried. The way I overcome fear is that I come to understand something, and then once you really get into the idea about how exorcisms are performed and the kind of the process that goes along with even prior to doing the exorcism, you kind of it's really
Father
extremely
cares.
fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fascination there that came from a place of fear first.
Do you believe that someone could be possessed by a demon?
100% believe it.
Okay.
Well, you know what I was going to say, and when I was doing research for this, because that's what I really wanted to be here for this
I
episode.
mean, he has a whole dossier.
Well, and that's it, but
It's mainly
what's-
about I'm not going to
Leave it.
Stop.
Leave
Stop.
it. Leave it. Leave it.
We need at least 3 fans left.
I'm sorry.
But you know what I actually found, and what I figured this would be the case, but exorcisms are one of those things that pop up in almost every religion. It's kind of like, you know, you go back and you look at
everybody has like a big canoe story.
yeah,
like the Ark.
flood, or I mean
flood.
that sort of mythology appears in multiple cultures that never had that sort of contact before. So exorcisms are also in there, and the way they're conducted, the belief system, the fact that there are some people who argue that the Bible was rewritten to actually remove some of the references to exorcism, particularly the Old Testament. And the argument that has been made about that is that the belief that when you were trying to sell a monotheistic thing, you didn't want to say that anybody could stand up against him to begin with. So the things that they refer to that may have been linked to exorcism in Genesis 32, Jacob wrestling an unknown assailant, could have been...
At the Walmart.
could have been a reference to exorcisms.
Yeah.
Let's see. Exodus 4, where God attempts to kill Moses, might have originally actually described Moses battling a demon or some sort of exorcism, because again, if you're trying to remove anything that God has ultimate power, God would have had to send that force, whatever that is.
Superman.
And then, so some of, but you know, as I was going through it, it's in the Old Testament,
With Jacob.
New Testament. I mean, it cuts across multiple things. Hinduism.
Jacob, he's really into ladders.
There's one of you out there that laughed.
Yeah.
One person.
But Hinduism
now.
has an entire process. Matter of fact, one of the 4 books, the Vedas, the holy books of the Hindus, one of the 4 is basically dedicated to the concept of exorcism. So, I mean, it's a big deal. The same thing you see it in...
Sorry, excuse me, I just sneezed.
It's okay.
Sorry, it was a devil leaving my body.
It's gonna
I
get
drive,
devil in
I
it
drive
later.
away most things, including devils.
You should smoke more.
Still
But
breathing.
you know, it's an Islamic, except for the Sikh, whatever I'm mispronouncing it, version of Islamism actually barred it.
I'm so sorry. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Oh Lord!
Won't you buy me a Mercedes?
But you know, Buddhism and all
Yeah.
of these.
Why don't you take
No,
a
listen,
jacket
as-
off
like-
if it's hot in?
Well, because I'm already sweating through it. But the thing is that in Buddhism, even in the lesser known sects of Buddhism, you know, you had the Tibetan Buddhism, and then, you know, like Nichiren Buddhism and various others. They also have rites of exorcism.
Well, and it's interesting because most of the way the setup occurs, I mean, there's a similarity even across the exorcism process.
Yeah.
I was reading about a couple cases where, in a couple, and obviously mainstream Judaism doesn't focus on it, but about a couple Jewish, I guess, divisions of the Jewish faith, that like they isolate the person, and then they get basically 12 elders to surround them to basically pin, and we would think about it if you're watching Supernatural, it becomes a circle of salt. It's a circle of humanity that drives out the demon. And there's something...
So wait, you're gonna let a circle of 12 elders just slide by?
He's still trying to think of it.
I mean, I think
No,
so.
I really am not. I was.
But that's remarkable, though. So they use it as a means of what, holding in all the energy, or blocking out still, or
But I guess
Causing
basically
high
it's the idea
cholesterol.
that...
yeah.
Killing that thing.
But basically it's the idea that once they're surrounded by representatives of humanity, the demon will be forced to leave, that it
What's that
can't
circle of salt?
handle...
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Do I have to Venn diagram all my jokes?
Venn diagram.
I got nothing.
What's a Venn diagram?
That's when one
I will
circle
show-
laps the other circle.
Thank you.
You list their differences and then their similarities.
Oy.
Tonight on Bonehead, Venn diagrams.
Yeah. Joe learned something about math and...
I don't understand
The
that
more you
or
know.
the Vin Diesels. So, back to this whole exorcism
He went
thing.
into Triple X and was disappointed.
It's
He wasn't
once
so-
again, every culture has something of it, but why is it not that we're finally in the... I can't see it for Chad's noggin. No, I enjoyed it, kind of.
Yeah, because you like to see your own image.
I am the golden calf. So, back to what we were saying.
I came up with 4 things and none of them I'll say.
You can say any
No, I
of them.
won't.
Ken's on the show.
Yeah,
no.
go there.
He's about to suck on that mini phone there.
It is amazing, and it's just absolutely
So may I see it?
yeah, absolutely.
I won't
Yeah.
take a drag, but this is
You totally
this is
should
a
take a
vaping, right?
Yeah.
I've never vaped.
Yeah.
vaped. I gave up smoking completely about 3 years ago.
Well,
It's not smoking.
But he's not giving up talking about how much he misses it.
I have not.
look at the
I don't want to hear about it, Professor X.
look at the
Anyway,
little top there. You see the little
Yeah.
little notch. That's where you suck.
so it looks like it gives out mints, or it's a lighter.
It does, but the reason why I use it is because it's very small and concealable, and usually I have it on me in any event that I'm at or anything that I film, and I usually just hold it in my hand and let my cuff cover it so that you don't really see it, and I can just whip it out and smoke. And
You
then put
can
back
whip it
in.
out anytime you want to on
Well,
Bonehead.
that's what led to my divorce.
Absolutely.
Not really.
Not re- I'm actually trying to be sensitive about the whole subject. He keeps bringing it up.
Oh,
You're like the one person I was being nice to.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
No, but yeah, it's great, and you can put a variety of flavors in it.
So, is this just as strong as the big ass peace pipes I see everybody else vaping out of?
Actually, yeah, but I always use the strongest level of nicotine because I don't
Because you're
take buckets.
Not a
of,
wuss.
I don't take buckets of lungfuls of it. So I need something strong just so that when I'm taking a little wasp breath,
I understand.
a little. You totally want to suck on it. It's totally fine.
I've never have. I'm good. I need another bad habit like I need a hole in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was about to say is after we got off on that, and I was really curious, is that every culture has these. So why, now that it's the 21st century, are we not just saying a lot of these folks have mental health issues?
Well, they're actually going up. Cases of exorcism in Mexico and in the United Kingdom are on the rise.
Crazy on the rise.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of the things. What's the film that William Friedkin did about the actual
The
exorcism?
documentary, Chad watched it.
I watched it actually too, and it was great.
Right? I haven't seen it yet.
What
I
was
thought
it
you watched
called?
it on Netflix.
no.
I watched it on Netflix.
What was that called?
What's it called?
Oh, I'm blanking on the name of it. What is it called?
William Friedkin's documentary on The Exorcist. We don't have phones or nothing to look that up.
Hey,
with.
Haley is looking it up. Our,
Haley?
our wonderful producer.
Haley
Um,
is amazing.
But
Haley.
if you haven't
I love
seen
her.
it, you really should watch it because he actually interviews.
I will eventually. The 14-month-old keeps me from a lot of this crap, yes.
Yeah, remember how you used to give me crap for not watching Battlestar Galactica? And I'm like, I got
still
kids.
can't believe
Have
you
you seen
haven't watched
Battlestar
Battlestar Galactica.
And you said I got
What are you
kids
doing with all
and-
that free time you got now?
I've watched. I finished Battlestar Galactica. I'm most of the way through.
Did you like
Babylon
it?
5. Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
No joke.
Battlestar Galactica?
Did you do
Not the original one.
the remake? Did you do big? Have you done Breaking Bad?
No,
I
I'm,
know that's the
I'm,
best show ever, except
my
maybe for The Wire.
I knew. And anyway, but going back to the topic of the show, which one of us should.
Let's talk about vaping more.
Now
What was it?
that also will drive around.
The Devil and Father.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amorth.
yeah. I
Father
watched that.
Amorth recently passed away.
He
Yeah.
passed away right after the Devil.
Yeah,
The
but
documentary.
the documentary is fascinating because they actually interview psychologists, neuroscientists, and they finally get to a point. They ask the neuroscientist, what do you think about exorcisms? And I think his final response is, am I going to endorse them as a medical process? No. Do I believe for some people they are the help that they need? Obviously, it helps this person. So, does that mean it's bad, good? No, it means it's effective for that person.
But that goes back to what needs to take place before the exorcism even starts. Like they have to go through that mental. Well, the Roman Catholics make you go through a battery of mental tests before you go in. So all that needs to be cleared away as an option prior to even doing the exorcism.
Right.
Now, I think there's a lot of people who aren't actually possessed that need to go through the exorcism because they feel that they have no direct power themselves, and this is not really mental illness, it's just a lack of power in your own life.
Yes.
And so that's a positive thing because then that steps in and gives them a chance to draw the line between their normal, natural life and happiness and joy versus their depression, anxiety, anger, aggression, or whatever this demonic, the oppression, depression, and all these things that are going through by being possessed.
Right.
But then there is there's that sect of people or that little tiny portion of the population that is legitimately possessed by something that cannot be explained. And, you know...
Social media.
Yeah, Twitter's possessing us all. And, but anywho,
Is a lot
there's one priest that was saying that something in the neighborhood of only 1 in 5,000 were actual cases of possession.
Right.
Which is, I think, really good.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same thing as for hauntings as well. You should not trust someone who goes into a place and every single time they come out saying, "Oh, it's haunted, it's haunted." You should have, there should be a range of, "Oh, this is something else, something
Right.
natural, something like that."
You know what's frightening for someone who is not an well, we don't hardly believe in anything. So, what's frightening
I
for
believe
someone...
Shaquille O'Neal's really tall.
Yeah. For someone who's very skeptical,
Just
what's frightening is that in a serious note, there actually is 1 in 5,000 where that works.
Yeah.
Well, I was
Because
gonna say,
we're talking about billions of people.
Yeah.
when you
Then we
watch,
start to get a fairly significant number
Mm-hmm.
if you think about all the folks that are on the planet.
And that number, like James is saying, that number is growing to the point where now you don't have to be specifically Roman Catholic or specifically a rabbi or some kind of real member of clergy.
Right.
You can be a lay person and go. And now with the International Association of Exorcists, you know,
created by
the IAE.
the Father Amorth was one of the founders.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it is sanctioned, or what would you call that? It is approved of by the Roman Catholics.
Yeah, it was approved. He started in 1996 to identify talent effectively, and then I think in 2099, you're right,
it was
99,
approved
it
of by the
became.
Roman Catholic Church. So I mean, that's only because there's such a rise of this of possession happening. That they simply can't keep that many priests, because the number of priests and people going to the clergy's really drastically changed since the 70s.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Since the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they have to have people step in and do those kinds of things. Ed Warren was a demonologist, who's a layperson
The Warrens.
From The Conjuring.
The Conjuring, and
Right.
just a slew of really great books. Believe in them or not, those Ed Warren and Lorraine turned out some of the best books.
I've never read the book, so I'm not going to judge.
You
them.
totally should. You totally should.
I have never read the books. I never met them. Lauren is still alive, right?
Yeah, Lorraine is. Yeah.
Lorraine. Okay, I'm sorry. Lorraine is still alive.
Yeah.
He died many years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, how are they making the movies?
Well, I'm not going to spend this time
James
explaining.
Wan.
Now,
James
hold
Wan
on.
is making
Back
the movies,
to
babe.
back to being
Aquaman better
skeptical.
not suck.
Back to the being skeptical. That sounds great and all, but how much of that is the church opening up those floodgates? And you're right, they've done that more than the last 10, 20 years. Because we now live in a society that believes less and less in a higher power. And to bring in people to the church.
But I do think you get to a point, and this is what I...
Or am I a horrible human being for saying that?
What I got from...
Which that's a point we'll get back to, but first.
Your hipster hatred knows no bounds.
What I got from
Stupid skinny jeans.
just
Oh,
because...
look at me, I'm at the night market, I'm so cool.
I can't bend over and tie my shoes.
Oh my god, these jeans are so skinny and this beer is so...
Oh my God.
So what is it? What do they call it?
Joe, you need to write. As soon as the show ends, I want you to go to your computer and start writing the hipster exorcist.
The hipster exorcist.
Yes, the hipster exorcist.
I would
That is
throw
a
this
genius
water,
idea.
but the jeans won't let me move this way. Oh my god, only craft beer will save you. Sweet Jesus, this is so crafty.
No, what I was going to
They
say...
only made 3 pots.
And going to back to what Ken was saying, though, about the tests they do before.
Craft
when-
beer is what I was thinking of.
when
earlier.
you-
You're welcome.
When you get to watch The Devil and Father Amorth, however it's pronounced,
Dr. Hey.
what's really interesting about it to me that made me actually go, there's probably something to this, is when they do the test and they talk to us like, oh, okay, you know, the random 40-year-old housewife that started speaking in Aramaic, she probably just didn't learn that online.
Oh no, she's listening to the Aramaic podcast. There's a podcast
Name
for
one.
everything.
Name one.
As
Oh,
Wes
okay.
Forsyth said, he has a Twitter page and he is followed by 50 billion people, and 85% of them have a podcast.
But you know, and that's what I actually step back
Can't
because
name one. I'm sorry. I don't follow
The
an
Aramaic.
podcast.
Right.
I'm sorry to our listeners and viewers.
somewhere right
I
now, by
need
the
to
way,
be more cultured. By the way, FYI, there are several people who listen to this shit because we've looked at the numbers and where they're at in the Middle East.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny?
North Carolina and the Middle
By
East
the way, it's
are
You're
gangbusters
huge.
for us.
You're
But-
huge in the Middle East.
Oh, India.
James?
India. We're big
India.
in India. What's funny is the guy running the Jacob
We're not making
of,
any of this up.
the guy running the Jacob of Arimathea podcast was getting ready to subscribe to ours, but after you just dissed Aramaic, he's like, no.
Not
It wasn't a
dissing it.
diss. It was just but
I was really only dissing hipster exorcists.
But
now
anyway.
you have to. But
was
also
the
to your
craftiest
point,
of beers.
To your point, they have gone through a lot of what has been, for a long time, considered cases of true exorcism, where people have spoken languages they did not study, because that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And they have found a majority of those, a large, considerable portion of them, are actually gibberish.
Right.
Right.
So it's now. I'm not comparing it. I'm not comparing it, but I'm saying it's almost like certain religions that speak in tongues or things like that, where just
Never heard
you
of
get
them.
caught up in a.
Because I'm not from Eastern Kentucky.
Well, but
Kentucky?
Kentucky.
I didn't
Oh my
really
God,
mean
he's starting to
say
speak in
Kentucky.
tongues. Hold it
right.
down.
But anyway, like you get caught up in the emotion of it, and you feel in those religions filled by the Holy Spirit, and you begin to like
The Holy Ghost.
say things. So those things happen. But then there are also, they say a large majority of those have been proven to be gibberish, but that means that there's a culture of them, a population of them that are not.
Well, and that's it. And that's
Which goes back to my 1 in 5,000. Which,
Yeah.
as a skeptic, still, I go...
that's 1 in 5,000 that report being possessed at some point.
To
too.
only one priest.
Yeah.
That's only to one priest.
But,
So it's not like a Vatican says only 1 in 5,000. It's like this one priest says 5,000 people contact me. Only one I have found to be, and that's only in the Indianapolis diocese.
But I think you get to that point too, where it's. I think you can kind of think
In all
about
fairness, if you're a Colts fan, you probably are possessed by the devil.
it. And there goes more subscribers. Thanks, Chad.
Peyton Manning has been watching this show, eating Papa John's.
Wait, where's Tim
Blessed
Turbo?
is our
Where's that
Peyton
one
of
that-
Tim
Manning.
Tebow.
Tebow, yes.
Turbo?
Oh,
Did you
my
say
God.
Tim Turbo?
Well, you call him your thing. I'll call him mine.
Turbo. Let's all turbo.
Let's all love that.
But I think you
Call
actually
me.
bring up a
He's
hashtag
saving
blessed.
himself to
Oh,
live.
Yeah, hashtag blessed. Oh, Tim, call me.
He is saving himself for marriage, and now you've opened that door.
I mean,
The,
it's more than open, kid. It's,
Come on, walk right on in.
come on in.
All are welcome.
I do think as you think about those cases and things like that, I think it's also important to think like Father Amorth, who was until his death the best known exorcist. You didn't automatically get a meeting with him. Like it was like the major leagues. You worked your way up with
We've got
okay.
him on Bonehead.
Not a shot in hell.
No. William
We
Friedkin.
had hard enough
If
time
you
getting
watch the
just...
documentary, William Friedkin actually, when he met with him, because William Friedkin also is really interested in
And
the
he
topic.
made The Exorcist, let's be honest.
But
He
yeah,
was-
but
he got more asses in Catholic churches than anybody else, probably.
That's
but
true.
he he even said like Father Amorth was like, yeah, you can talk to me. And when he said he had an exorcist coming up, he says it in the documentary. He goes, you can film. It's just you. You get one camera.
Mhm.
And then when they actually show that room, I mean, it's filled with
cameras.
her family.
Well, these are mine.
Filled with her family and then other church officials because they have to be
Sit
there
over
to
just keep thinking about Tim
to witness.
Turbo.
So anyway, I mean, as we talk about this, I just think that it's really interesting that it pops up in almost every culture.
Mhm.
The historical cases of it are weird. I mean, just the ones that come up, the famous case where the guy was exorcised by two
Nordic
Catholic
tribe.
Church officials. And they drove out 40 demons and said, we couldn't get the last 3, and named them. One of them is the urge to murder, one of them is and he went home and killed his wife.
So how do they know they're getting out 40 demons? There's not a counter over the side going, 1 demon, 2 demon, 3 demon, 4.
But a part of the process of exorcism is that you have to have the demon name itself. That's a part of the process.
Yeah.
Did you not watch the Conjuring movies? Like, once they get the demon's name, they have more power over
I
it?
get it, but that's a movie and that's bullshit.
Well, some of it is actually really like.
I'm not trying to be rude.
But Joe,
I love movies.
but Joe-
These are all mine.
But
I
Joe-
love The Exorcist. I love The Exorcist 3. Why didn't make an Exorcist 2? Who knows?
But Joe,
They did. Don't watch it. John
RoboCop.
Borman, not a good movie.
RoboCop is a fictional thing, but there are
God.
robots and there are cops. So, I mean...
No, sir. He's part man. He's part machine. But as you can
He's-
see over there on the wall, he's all cop.
So,
Anyway.
He's Peter Weller.
but anyway, let's talk
Peter Weller.
just
Dr.
for a
Toby.
second
Never forget.
about what it means to meet someone who is possessed.
So have you met someone who's possessed?
I have.
I guess we can't use names. Do we know them?
No, you don't know them.
Were they ever at Scarefest? Have they ever attended any of our panels?
No, but they may have been in one of your panels, but I don't know that to be true.
Oh, that'd be funny.
But I was locked in a room with one.
So how do you know he or she was possessed?
I know she was possessed because there was the absolute void. There was a void, a almost like a pit in her character, that as I was psychically reading her, made me so uncomfortable that I stopped.
Is this one of those? What do you call those ladies that follow you around?
Friends?
I was going to say angels, but yes, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Oh, you mean
And,
like spirit guides?
Because
to quote Hellraisers, angels to some, demons to others.
Yeah. But she sat down in front of me and she said, "I'm really
Friends
depressed."
is a good answer. I need to use that one more
I was
often.
gonna say, I can't do the Friends theme song. I'm sorry.
No. Keep going.
I forget where we were at.
There was a void.
Oh, yeah.
You were
So I was
psychically,
reading her,
and I'm not judging.
She said,
connected to
I'm,
this lady who had a
I'm
void.
depressed.
Yes.
And she said, I don't know why. And she said, I'm quick to anger and I don't know why. And I don't know what to do about it. And as I was dealing the cards, the devil was the first card to pop up. Seven of Swords, which is indicative of something happening that's deceptive under the, with an ability to hide, like under the radar. All these various different cards were popping up. An inverted Hierophant, which is the sign of a priest.
Uh-huh.
But inverted is the sign of the opposite of that, or a refusal toward that.
Yeah.
And I asked her what she thought about religion, as I ask everybody who's with me if they're in some spot. I ask them if they have a spiritual path, and she immediately became angry
Mm-hmm.
and dismissive, and no, angry is the best word to use. And I essentially said to her, "This is totally free. You need to go see a priest. I can't help you. You got to go to church." And you've got to say to them the very thing which is bugging you, is that I am being oppressed. I didn't say by a demon because that's dangerous. I just say you just go to a priest and you tell them you're oppressed. Because it's infestation, oppression, obsession. How does it go? Infestation, oppression, obsession, manifestation,
Yeah.
and then possession. So
It sounds like a bad relationship.
And that's what it is.
it totally is.
And that's the other thing, because
I'm not even. I'm
It's
trying to be
No, it
sarcastic.
totally is though. But
you're walking through like the stages of a bad relationship as it degrades.
yeah.
well, and that's
absolutely.
it. If you think about, like, some of the Hinduism has a belief in exorcism, and there's certain sects, I guess, of Hinduism that believe that that being born, you are given a certain divine spark, that we all are effectively of God. And so they view the need for exorcism as something trying to put out that spark. That you have a connection somewhere in your
And
life.
that
Be it,
is why we have Optimus Prime.
that's the Allspark. I get it. Chad.
I'm moving along.
Anyway,
I had no idea.
anyway, but so
I have
again,
no idea.
I mean, just being open to other people's ideas and other people's belief. I mean, that was one that struck me, because as I was reading through some of the cases that they were talking about, this idea that, of course, if we do have a spark of the divine in us, then obviously the opposite power wants to extinguish that.
Megatron.
Megatron.
So
shit.
let's talk about this for a second, because I'm curious how this. So was this just a reading that was scheduled, or what?
Yeah, she actually booked an appointment with me.
So she booked an appointment. You
Yes.
were doing it in person in a room.
The same way I do them, when I'm doing
Right.
it in person.
Right, and you can always contact Ken to get a quick
TarotByKen.com.
Caro by 10.
Carol by Ted.
CaroBy10.com.
You had one glass of champagne.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Stand strong. Steady. So, but anyway, she.
This is empty, sir.
I have never heard from her again.
Okay.
And it is one of those times that I think about them on a random basis. They cross my mind. People that I've read for, and she sometimes comes through, and I think, I hope to God that you found help.
Did you know her beforehand?
No, I have no idea.
Do you know how she got in contact with you?
I have no idea. I didn't even ask.
So that makes it creepier to me.
It was like...
Because I would imagine that you know how most people either get referred to you or something like that. I have no idea.
But when I'm busy like that, I don't get. I really don't care. Like how you found me. It's just as simple as what do you need help with. But you know, like if I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, or you're looking at somebody. There's a spark.
Right.
You see, there's a humanity inside, no matter what. She had none of that. It was completely void.
So no matter if you don't like them, if you think they're an asshole, or if
You
you
see
still
something
see
in them.
something.
She had none of that, and to see to see the devil crossed by the 7 of Swords is indicative that the demon is inside, or that the devil is inside, and that they are trying to get out of being recognized. An inverted hierophant, meaning that it is trying to refuse her getting spiritual help or guidance or a member of clergy being able to assist her. I mean, all that in the language of tarot is just spot on possession.
So, you were going to tell me earlier the difference between an exorcism and a what?
And a deliverance. Yeah.
So this is probably a good time to segue into
Right.
that.
So I thought and had thought for the longest time that I had seen an exorcism. Until I did some research.
Okay.
Which we had to talk about the time I spent doing research. Something very bizarre happened.
Well, let's do the talk about doing the research, and then we'll.
So I was doing the research, and
when was this?
over the course of the years that I've done it. But today, when I was refreshing, something weird happened. But anyway, years and years and years ago, I was probably like 19.
Yeah.
I went to a Pentecostal church. One of the religions that speak in tongues. Moved by the
Which
Holy
is
Ghost.
what one does from where we're from.
Right. You
Not
do.
unheard of.
Not unheard of. I went into the Pentecostal church, and this young woman was what I thought at the time was being exorcised.
Yes.
Because there was a definite oppression in her life. There was a definite... there were manifestations that would lead you to believe that the woman was possessed.
Mm-hmm.
And all the elders, mostly women, because, they do separate, were praying over her. She didn't contort. She didn't scream in vulgarity. She was aggressive. She was sweating. She was crying. You could hear her growling and things like that. But they did a number of prayers. And within maybe an hour, maybe more, she came to, I would say. And she was released.
An hour?
Yeah. And it was like full-blown screaming at her. And they were playing tambourines and speaking in tongues. And it shook something inside of her loose to where she could live a normal, healthy life again. She, as far as I understood, was an alcoholic and a couple of other things, but she lived a much healthier, normal life after it was over.
Yeah.
So, no, it wasn't an exorcism. It was a deliverance. The difference being, deliverance is more about the prayers and certain type of ritualistic activities that aren't as in-depth as an exorcism. It's like the precursor to an exorcism.
Okay.
A demonic intervention.
A demonic intervention.
There you go.
A new series by A&E.
Boom.
So, yeah, no.
Followed by Hipster Exorcist. This fall, Fox.
So, yeah,
We've got so many craft beers we're going to throw at you.
So I was
We
sitting there
bless them
today.
all.
I was sitting today in my apartment, and I was studying about exorcisms. I was reading The Rite, which is a great book. Everybody should read The Rite.
Does it have anything to do with that?
The movie.
Okay.
With
Is it better
Anthony
than
Hopkins.
Is it better than the movie? with
Totally
Anthony
better than the
Hopkins?
movie because it involves so much more real parts and processes to exorcisms that
Okay.
it's imperative that if you're into the subject that you should totally read it or
Totally real.
whatever.
Okay.
There was a fragrance of burning, like the smell of burning, and it kept crossing me. And I said to my ex-husband, who was sitting there, "Do you not smell that?" And he said, I can't smell it." I said, "You're kidding me." And finally, I said to him, "No, you have to stop. Rob, do you smell this or not?" And he said, "I don't." And so I left the room. The smell followed me, and I got quiet, and I took a moment, and I said to my spirit guide, "Is this a psychic smell? Is there something else happening here?" And she said, "Absolutely." So I turned the television and off. I turned my player off. I turned the YouTube off. I put the books away and said, "That's enough of that for today."
How much shit were you watching at one time?
Well, I like to engross myself in the
I was going to make a
subject, Chad.
joke. All the things you heard, all the things you smelled burning were all those bridges.
Yes. It's funny and true.
True, I know. That's the only joke I've made.
Yeah, but
I was going to make a burning almonds joke, but I didn't.
But you know what's really funny though is that like when I was getting into the shower,
Yeah.
I
And you're listening to Bonehead.
I smelled it again. I was like, "You have got to be joking!" And I ran out of the bathroom and I was like, "Do you not smell that?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm making ramen. It's it's the burner." But hours prior to that, I was smelling the same smell. So like, how is that possible? You know, and I can only chalk it up to yet another experience I've had that nobody else gets to experience because of what happens with
It's fascinating.
the psychic.
It's still so hard for me to grasp, though, and I guess I would have a different experience if I'd seen something like that. I have seen people talk in tongues, but where you and I are from, that's probably not that hard to see.
Right.
It's, in fact, you're probably be in the minority to say that you never were at one of these churches where you didn't see something like that happen. But I've never seen someone for an hour get prayed over like that.
Oh, it's intense.
And I feel that if you were at a certain age, that would be very not only unsettling but traumatizing.
Well, this came shortly after the most traumatizing spiritual experience I ever had.
Which was? Do you want to talk about it?
I don't know if I've ever talked about it in public.
Well, you don't have to, but we do tend to get those kinds of things out of people from time to time.
We are the Sally Jesse Raphael podcasting.
Well, I would say we're the Sally Jesse Raphael of talking to production designers and writers and artists of getting those stories out of them.
Well,
and makeup artists.
I'll tell you because it is.
But if you don't feel comfortable telling it, I don't want you to do. And this is our Halloween episode.
By the way, Sally Jelly Raphael,
Sally Jelly.
Sally Jesse.
You're talking about me having one Diet Coke.
I was gonna say, are you all having? I mean, do we need to have an exorcism on you all? Because you all have both flubbed today.
Does that mean we're fat?
I was going to say, you've done really good with everybody saying exercise and you not running away screaming.
Oh, God. Power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ
at this
compels
point.
you.
So I take back all the big C jokes and give them to Chad.
That's my name.
Keep going.
So when I was
cock.
That's where my mind went.
Of course it was.
As it naturally does. When I was,
doesn't it all?
I was
don't we all?
16 and I lived in. Well, when I was 15, my parents kicked me out. Essentially, I was homeless.
Right.
And they had no idea at the time that I had savings bonds, and I had cash, and I had checks that I had never cashed, and these sorts of things. And I went and I bought an apartment. Like, I've rented an apartment for 2 months. I paid up front for 2 months.
Where was this at?
It's in a place called Allen, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I lived there with the man I was living with at the time. He was 21, I was 16. And it sounds like a sheriff.
Statutory.
Yeah, not a good thing. Anyway, I was in bed one night, and I had come back from visiting someone's house, and I had read the house because they said something dark was there. There was. And I laid it, and I can't believe I've never told this story. So, I was laying in bed. Mm-hmm. The next part is told to me. I have no recollection that this happened. But the guy I was with said that I came up out of the bed. We'll call him John. John said, I came up out of the bed one vertebrae at a time. Mm-hmm. And that I stopped when I came to the top of my head, and I twisted totally and looked toward him and did nothing but exhale. And he said there was no life in my eyes. There was no light in my eyes. I just exhaled. And he said, and when I exhaled, it was totally cold. Mm-hmm. And that's when I came to. I came to twisted and looking at him. And then I felt what can only be described as a hand inside of my body around my lumbar. It started pushing me and pulling me like this to the point where I was literally whipping back and forth. And then I pulled all the way back up again, one vertebrae at a time. I blacked out again for a second. He says that I started to mumble and talk. But when I came back to, I looked directly at the end of the bed, and there was this dark, completely black figure at the end of the bed. and I watched it slide down under what the eye line of the edge of the bed, and go against the wall and up into a corner, and then lurch in a corner and look at me. And I started to cry and sob because I felt like this is going to sound very Harry Potter, but I felt like I was never going to be happy again.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was literally sucking my soul out.
Yeah.
And so then, at that point, he called his grandmother, who was the Pentecostal, who did the deliverance prayers for the woman, and she came over and began putting oil over the door frames and blessing me and blessing the house. And I had no reaction to it that was aggressive or resistant. I wanted it because I was so totally afraid of what was happening. And since then, nothing like that has ever occurred again. Thank God. But it was sometime after that I went to see her do this part in her deliverance prayers that she was doing. Huh. And to this day, I don't think I was possessed. I do think that there was something inside of me, though. Because when I did come to, I totally had this split-second recollection or realization in the moment that I was in an unnatural state of posture, totally twisted around and looking directly at him and not knowing how I came to that position and freezing cold. So that has never happened again, thank God. But it's one of those things where I think, like, if people who are possessed come to something quite like that, then I have nothing but pity and compassion for them, because that was horrific. And that is the story that I've never told ever.
Wow.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us.
We
don't have anything smart to say.
No.
Well, I was about to say, and but it's really funny because obviously you've done a lot of good. You've helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's the idea.
He's helped me a couple of mornings at Scarefest. Just get going.
Get your hand out of my pocket.
I don't even mean it that way.
The idea, though, about that this sounds terrible, but it makes you a great target to go after. If you have a malicious force, you would want to go after the people that are going to help.
Well, even Saint Teresa.
I was saying that's actually what made me think about.
Because that in your dossier.
Yeah, Mother Teresa
Keep going there, Professor.
Yeah. Mother Teresa was recognized. I mean, this is when she was later in her life. It's not when she was young.
Yeah.
But
and she was so much.
The Archbishop of Calcutta.
Sorry, James.
The Archbishop of Calcutta.
Untouched fruit. Rotted fruit.
Literally.
Really, that one was too
she
much?
was being overly agitated in her sleep. At 80-some years old, and the Archbishop of Calcutta said she was under attack of the evil one. And that was his quote.
He feared it. Yeah, he totally feared it, and so she had to go through the process of an exorcism.
But
that's you sure that wasn't osteoporosis?
100%. She was taking that once monthly Boniva things. But she totally.
So they made her do the exorcism?
But she was the one being exorcised.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They made her go through an exorcism.
Yeah, and she voluntarily did it. But that's, I think,
That didn't make CNN?
No.
They're out there reporting all this politics and real news is coming out.
You mean the exorcism of Mother Teresa?
Yeah, I just think that people would probably tune in
should
for
appear
that.
on the ticker somewhere, shouldn't it?
I just think that there's an audience for it.
Google stocks her up.
Mother Teresa's possessed.
Mother Teresa's down. We got to get her back up. Let's raise her.
By the way,
Mother Teresa went down.
The case I referred to earlier was Michael Taylor.
Her life alert's going on.
The one with the 40.
Yeah, the 40 was Michael Taylor.
I encourage everyone to investigate the exorcism of a man named Maurice.
Do tell.
This is a young man. Well, this is when he became to do the exorcisms. He was a bit older. Again, Ed and Lorraine Warren did the exorcisms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was beaten and molested and was treated cruelly his entire life. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that his father was possessed. I believe his father was possessed. I mean, the father was so cruel, he did things like make him have sex with animals when he was a child, and the father would watch him do it. Normal people don't do that.
No.
Not even where we're from.
Not that we don't raise kids that way in the Lewis household.
So
yet
Maurice began to self-medicate, alcoholism, drugs, these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
He would fall into fits of rage, drunk or not. He would react in dangerous ways. He would speak in languages he did not study. He'd have knowledge of things he should not have knowledge of. Superhuman strength, all the classic criteria for an exorcist, for a possession. And the Ed and Lorraine Warren came in, and this is one of the first few times it was ever captured on film, they filmed his exorcism that Ed Warren did, and signs of the cross would appear inside looked like it was coming from inside out. He would spit things up, random objects. He would cry tears of blood. Lorraine stood by him and was constantly cleaning him. And it is actually in the movie The Conjuring, when they're talking about possession and they're showing that clip of an exorcism. That's the one they're talking about.
Oh, okay.
And he eventually, this is what happened to Maurice. After the exorcism, he was okay for a while. It had to happen again. He was okay for a while. Then they did it again. As in all real exorcism, it's not just a one touch and go. It's multiple
And it can be
times.
days and weeks, right?
It can be
it's not
years.
like, and it's not like it's one.
People have died during exorcisms.
Annalise Michaels being one of them. So there's an old woman in Rome who gets it done weekly, like a drive-through, exorcism, and she's one of the ones in the right that actually the old woman comes out of her restraints and lifts the chair up to she was going to assault the priest. Anyway, so after the last time that he was exorcised, he sometime after that held his wife at gunpoint, threatened to kill her. She says on a couple of different interviews that he looked like he was resisting something, that he was having a conversation with something internally and trying to resist it, and then eventually he put the gun to his mouth and he blew his brains out. She said that the first thought she had after he had died, she had seen him pull the trigger and blew the back of his head off, bless him, said, "Amen." She was glad that he was finally at peace. That was the first thought she had, was amen, that her husband had just killed himself.
Wow.
So I encourage people to read the story of Maurice, because it is one of those, I think, that is a true sign of possession, but also dangerously close to mental health.
Right.
Well, see, yeah, you tell me all these things, and I think, well, this man must be troubled.
He
I can't imagine the mental scar tissue that
Could
would
you?
leave.
I mean, could you imagine that?
No.
So I think it's one of the ones that dances the line. Annalise Michaels,
Yeah,
the
who's
one who
this?
died at 68 years old. Where was she? Berlin?
Germany. Yeah.
I have a
Exorcism of Emily
You
Rose.
are a wealth of knowledge.
Is loosely based on.
Exorcism of
Emily
Emily Rose.
Rose.
Which,
Is
by the
loosely
way,
based
is
on the
when we
case.
were talking about
Loosely.
exorcism
Who was the woman
films,
in that movie?
Jennifer Carpenter.
Jennifer Carpenter.
She's
yeah.
very attractive. It reminds me a lot of Lauren Linney, who I can't stand.
She's from Louisville.
Is she?
Yeah.
So is Annie Potts, whom I love.
I didn't know any
Ooh,
parts was
designing
from
women.
Louisville.
We're very close, Annie and I. But
Really?
Oh, jeez.
Get her on the show. We're big fans.
Ghostbusters.
I mean, I do love her though. Anyway, The Exorcism of Emily Rose is very loosely based on Annalise Michaels, whom you can research on YouTube and actually listen to the exorcism tapes.
And there's another film they did about her called Requiem, which I've never seen.
Is that about her too?
That's loosely based on her case
Really?
as well. Allegedly, yes.
I own that. I'm gonna have to go home and now and watch it. But anywho, after I get back from all hookers, so because it's immediately.
And they did do a documentary called "The Exorcism of Annalise Michael," but it's in Polish with English subtitles. If
Yeah,
you want to watch
which
it.
I love subtitles. But anyway, she died at 68 pounds.
Yeah.
She was starved out. I do not believe she was possessed.
Really?
I believe she was oppressed. I believe that she had mental health issues in addition to that, much like Maurice. I think it was a dance of those two lines, but I think that she was more mentally ill than she was possessed. I have met mentally ill people who thought they were possessed.
I probably have too. I'm sure all of us here have done that.
Well, I was about to say, well, and it's the same. I think that the line there would be, it's the same sort of mental illness that it's the religious equivalent to the government put a chip in my brain. Because I've met several people who honestly
I
believe
agree with that.
the government
Yeah.
are controlling them,
Yeah.
and you can't drink the water because that's how they get the chip
Yeah.
inside you. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I think there is that fine line. But then like I said, there's just some of these cases that, and do watch that documentary, Joe, because it is.
I will eventually
It's-
get
it's
to
really
it. I still
interesting.
haven't watched 3 Billboards yet, and I've been wanting to do that for a year.
Yeah. It's on HBO Go right now.
But as far as the timeline, there was actually a case in Germany. Germany seems to be hit up a lot.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder why.
It's all the craft beer.
Shit. And Hitler.
And
Which
But
is
it
the
was-
third time I've been on this show and the third time I've mentioned Hitler.
Hitler.
And then he
really?
suddenly appears.
Shut up.
Pastor Johann Blumhardt did an exorcism of.
I am here for your Starbucks.
I'm going to screw this
That's
up,
a
but
horrible accent,
Gottlieben
I'm ashamed.
Dietis. And he did it for over 2 years, and it was consistent. Like, I mean, he would go home, eat, sleep, come back, and work on this case before the Gottliebeditis was cured, and that was, it took from 1842 to 1844. But once it was done, for whatever reason, the church actually saw an increase in membership from people literally traveling, and this would have been in the 1840s, a great distance. And Blumhardt believed it was God giving credit for what he had accomplished.
Ken, the thing I want to say, and then it's kind of more of a question, is, and I don't mean to put Chad on the spot, but Chad and I are more skeptical probably than James. So, is that okay, James?
No, I agree. I've seen too much stuff I can't explain.
Yeah, but so. Chad and I are probably more skeptical than James. So,
Except for Flat Earth, because we all know that's true.
I'll cut you.
Just
Chad, please.
Just kidding.
I'm so in love with you. Don't ruin it.
I'm just kidding.
Wait till he pulls out his MAGA hat.
No. Chad doesn't believe in the flat Earth. He knows it's really we're just a world on the back of a tortoise shell.
Yes,
I would almost prefer that.
I would too.
I would prefer.
I would totally
because at least there is something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Thank
that's
you.
just
the
dumbass.
tortoise goes through the cosmos.
That's just stupid.
I don't know. Have you seen two turtles doing it?
Anyway,
why are you watching that, Chad?
Why wouldn't I?
Listen.
I knew that was going to be a response.
Listen. Sometimes you need certain things to get you full throttle, if you know what I'm saying. Mahogany.
No, I don't know what you're saying.
Mahogany? The Diana Ross movie?
Well, I was thinking more of the wood, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Redwood.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along. So I said that because I sit here and I'll listen to you, and I've told people this behind your back, and I've said it to your face, but just so you know, that I don't know that I believe in everything that you believe, but I believe you believe it. And I believe you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
So I believe you, and you are a friend, and you and I have talked about this. In fact, I think I told you after the first time we had it on the show, I was like, no, he believes it. And then I believe that you believe it, and I believe you. So it leads me to, I hear these experiences, and I believe that they happen to you, and I believe that that's exactly how you experienced it. So I wonder, am I completely oblivious because I don't know that I've ever met someone who was pure evil, or that I've ever gotten that vibe.
Look in the mirror.
I knew he was going to make a joke, but I'm being completely serious.
It's like a thing, if you've never met one kind of person, you should check yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you meet an asshole in the morning, you meet an asshole. If you meet an asshole in the afternoon, then you meet one asshole in the evening, then you're the asshole.
Yeah, right.
Right. But I don't know that I've met people who I thought who probably didn't have a sense of
Morality?
less morality or a less sense of just the world around them. But I don't know that you're talking about peering into someone and not seeing a spark. I don't know that I've ever experienced that. Have you?
No.
Okay.
I've ran into jerks. I've ran into...
James? No, we're not talking about jerks.
I know, but you didn't let me finish my sentence before you went to James.
No, go ahead, Chad.
No, I've ran into jerks. I've ran into assholes. I've ran into egotistical jackasses. But there's never anything sparked. I've always see something there. It's not like a completely void of all human.
Well, are you even looking for that, though?
No, I'm usually just going an asshole and ignoring them. But still,
you're usually looking at your feet.
But I think, and this goes
really
back to
large.
They're fabulous, and I love them.
Yes.
Going
Road
back
cones.
to the idea of mental illness or possession or both. I've met people that honestly, the only way I could deal with it is say that I can't try to understand. Because going down that path is too dark for me to figure out how did you get to this point. The people that I meet that honestly believe this type of person deserves to die just because they're that type of person.
I guess.
Hardcore, I mean, I don't have a good tolerance for hate. And I think when you see somebody that begins their conversation with, I believe group X, whatever that may be, deserves to be punished and ran out of the country or ran out of the world or, As
I get older, I do a better job of culling a lot of those people out of my life.
Well, I know, and I don't mean the ones that...
Does that make sense to the rest of you?
I guess I should say, I don't mean the ones that are ignorant. And what I mean by that, not calling them ignorant, but they just don't know better.
They
were
know better.
raised around that. It's the one that you literally can go to, and I've only met a couple of them in my life, thank goodness. But that you can go to and say, okay, listen, here you have the same blood type as this person. You have the same everything as, I mean, literally, if you had needed a new heart, this person's heart would work in your body, and their response is kill them. Kill every single one of them.
But you're talking about someone who's filled with hate.
Well, that's what I mean, and so that
which is
that's what I don't get.
But she was less than hate.
Yeah, and that's what I guess that's
you
part
know,
of...
like, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You know, like, the lifelessness, the lifelessness that is Michael Myers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That black,
Mm-hmm.
there's no real conscience.
The boogeyman.
There's nothingness. She was darker than that. She was less than, and I'm saying less than because there was more humanity to that type, or there was more of a spark of the divine or whatever in the type that you see in a movie like Halloween than what this lady was.
When you tell me this, the first thing that comes to my mind is what I just said when I was asking Chad and James and you, and I think, am I oblivious? And then the second thing that goes through my mind, or am I just that blessed/lucky, depending on how you look at it, that I'm surrounded by a lot of love?
I think both.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I totally get it.
Because I actually, most of the people I mean, don't get me wrong, Chad's right. Certain of them are jerks, and some of them, I've worked with people who sucked before, and yada, 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 but for the most part, I'm surrounded.
That was a dig at you, James.
Well, yeah.
I'm surrounded. God, this sounds so sincere, specifically for a Bonehead episode, but I am. I feel like I'm surrounded by love most of the time.
And that's a great, wonderful place to be. But you are lucky.
I probably am
You're
lucky
extremely lucky.
or blessed, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have stories, and we could talk about it. But at 40, I'm pretty much. I look around, and I don't, like I said, it's probably partially. I don't notice it as much, but I'm surrounded by love.
And that's great, and that's where we all should be.
Good. Yeah.
But there's definitely something in this universe that goes beyond explanation. We can all agree that there are things that we still don't know what to explain. Whether
there's more in your philosophy than what is in.
There is more in heaven and earth than in your philosophies or
Horatio.
But
Horatio, yeah.
Sands.
Bless him, he lost all that weight. So
I'm flipping him off for our people listening on iTunes and SoundCloud.
Love him.
Horatio Sands is a very smart man.
But you absolutely, I say lucky in that you've not come across it or experienced it. Because
probably not that. I don't know about the real evil thing. I'm sorry.
Because it's there.
Right.
It's I mean, whether you, and I know that, just as convinced as you are to be a skeptic or like a
I see it and I hear about it, and of course there's horrible things on the news, and people do these monstrous things to one another.
Yeah. But think about those people who would do monstrous things to one another, and at the end of the day, they're completely void of anything positive.
I know.
They're void of anything loving.
I know.
And they have an aversion to anything positive and light. And that it is actually no cause of their own, nor is it mental illness. There is a population of people like that who are just...
So we're talking about past sociopaths.
Past. Yes, that is like, actually, it's very lot like sociopath. To see somebody who has no conscience or any kind of awareness or respect for life or any of this. Mm-hmm. It's so less than that. It's unbelievable. Now, there's a saying on The Conjuring, is it? That Ed Warren said about there is evil out there and that kind of a thing. And I think that's a really intense way of saying it, but I think it's very, very true. I do cards, and I do speak to spirits, and I do participate in the practice of divinity or divination rather. And I do not one single time do it without thinking, be very careful.
Absolutely.
I was about to say, and that's my thing. And I think the first episode, the first episode you were on, I said talked about how do you create a barrier or something, because I think if I had that gift, or if I don't know if I'd be brave enough to use it.
It's terrifying too.
Because I literally think about,
because you're opening yourself up.
Well, that's it, and then to I'm not as skeptical as Joe, and like I said, I've seen a few things that creep me out and that I don't want to experience again. And knowing that experience, to open myself up and do that, I'd have to know that I was helping somebody pretty immediately, because I mean, to me, it is. I think the. I mean, we look at cases. We've already brought up Hitler, but I mean, there's pictures of Hitler playing with German children, and Hitler was probably the closest we can say historically to being evil incarnate. I mean, now people say you're worse than Hitler instead of you're worse than the devil.
Well,
That being said,
Yeah, I mean, even Albert Fish loved his kids.
that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
that's true.
So,
But like even Manson.
Did he
loved-
have kids?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I really
Albert
didn't.
Fish had kids.
So you know,
And
and
they
that's
were
what I
well
think
done
about.
men.
I look at cases like that and
So
I
he
cringe.
did nothing to them?
He did nothing
Yeah.
to them. He
And-
treated his kids like.
Let alone to encounter
Princess
and being
princess.
willing to walk in. So I see things like the warring cases and things like that, and I think it's fascinating, and I can research it, and I can look at these cases, and I found some stuff.
But you're
that
reserved from it, or you're.
I
away from it.
would need, if like I said, it's not to pull Luke Skywalker, but I'd disconnect myself from the Force.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do it.
It doesn't. There's not a single day that doesn't cross my mind that's a concern. And if you are, and this is the people who are listening or watching, if you are involved in the paranormal investigating, or you are practicing psychic or medium, you, no matter how much you pray, no matter how much you give, no matter how pure your spirit is or your intent, you are always leaving yourself open. It is, even Mother Teresa, who we can all agree was pretty fantastic. You know what I'm saying? She was
kicked Chad once.
She was no B. Arthur, but she was still pretty.
Oh, if
Saint-
only my
Saint
dick was
B.
as big as B. Arthur's.
I mean, me too.
Right.
But anyway, you're leaving yourself open and vulnerable, and if you don't recognize that fact and take steps on a daily basis to avoid that, then you're in dangerous territory, and you gotta be more humble, I think.
So we didn't really talk so much about exorcism movies. I do want to ask you, as someone who has researched this quite a bit, because we are a show about entertainment, as someone who's researched this quite a bit, and this is our Halloween episode, what exorcism films and books do you really enjoy? Do you really recommend? I mean, we have The Exorcist, Exorcist 1 and Exorcist 3. Seriously, Exorcist 2 is, you shouldn't watch it. The Exorcist 3 is based on the book by William Peter Blatty called Legion, which was his sequel to The Exorcist. Yeah. So
I think, in terms of books, The Rite and anything by the Warrens.
Now, was I want to call her Elizabeth Warren. Lorraine, but not Lorraine. But Ed was he a minister?
No, he was one of the only lay people who were approved of by the Vatican.
Right.
And he was a demonologist, and so he was one of the only lay people to finish that thought they were given authority to participate in that kind of a thing.
I think I knew that, but where did his religious training come from?
It's self-study and also the Catholic Church. And
were they Catholics?
Yeah, stout. What do you call that?
Devout.
Devout. Thank you. She's not stout. Very frail thing. But anyway,
stout and devout.
That's right. It should be in your tattoo.
We should
your
totally.
tramp stamp should say.
Why don't we do a ass-kicking priest movie called Stout and Devout?
Right.
I'm here to kick ass for the Lord.
Yes. Why not do that?
Well, I stole that line from a movie, but yeah, obviously you don't like it, Chad. I can tell from your face.
But I will say that The Exorcist is one of my favorite possession movies. I watch it every Easter and sometimes every Christmas because
it's Christmas morning. Let's watch your.
I think that it is, if you're a person of Christian faith, then the movie should really more be about the conquering of evil than anything else. You should actually celebrate that film because it did drive a lot of people towards your religion. In the 70s, it opened the doors. Anyway,
absolutely. William Peter Blatty should have got paid by the Vatican.
I like The Exorcism of Emily Rose, but after watching that movie, I woke up at 3 o'clock every morning for weeks. Not of my own volition, not based on an alarm clock. Just woke up at 3 o'clock every morning. I 3 or 4 times came home to 300 a.m. blasting on my radio without me being home to turn it on. So there's something weird in it, and I love the movie, but I hate the lady who's in it because she looks so much like Lauren Linney. I hate Lauren Linney. not in a million years would I have ever, like, I can't stand her. She does that whole intro before the Downton Abbey thing, and I just have to close my ears and rock back and forth. I can't stand Lauren Linney.
She's in Love Actually.
She's horrible. And
She's in Love Actually.
She's awful. I can't stand her.
She's in The Big C with James.
Oh my God.
But anyway, those are my movies: The Exorcist and The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And I think the Rite with Anthony Hopkins is pretty great.
Even though it's nothing like the book.
It's a lot like the book, but it's not exactly like the book. But it's got that guy in it from, what's his name? The Irish chap from Once Upon a Time.
O'Donoghue.
Colin, what's his name?
O'Donoghue.
Colin
Colin
O'Donoghue.
O'Donoghue.
Who makes me feel like
Fuzzy.
a natural woman.
That's a good feeling, I guess.
Yes, I mean, even when he's on Once Upon a Time with the eyeliner, I'm like, shut up. Give it to me, Captain Hook. Anyway, I don't know where we went there. I've digressed.
Back to the great wide open.
Yeah, but
All are welcome.
yes. So, but anywho, yeah,
And
those are my
old
movies.
hookers.
But I think also there's something you should avoid, which is blindly going onto things like YouTube and just looking things like this up. You should avoid videos and things like this of exorcisms without a proper knowledge of how they work, because I think that it really twists your head into what is possible in these things.
Really?
Because they're not quite like The Exorcist, and they're not quite like, although a lot of what happens in these things is real and can happen and is plausible, it really does skew your view of how real it can be. You know, such as coughing up blood, vomiting blood. That happens in a real exorcism. Not always, but it does. Also, the thing that happens is not just blood, but black, viscous black material come up.
Yeah.
Some people have coughed up nails or various blessed objects or objects they should have never been in possession of that were coming out. But these things on YouTube that are like obviously fake and things like that, if you're not trained or educated into what real exorcism is like, to watch those kinds of things it just removes you further from the reality and the real danger of what's out there. Yeah.
What about you two? What do you recommend, exorcism-wise, movie-wise? You can have it. Go ahead.
Repossessed.
All right, because you had a crush on who?
Oh, what's his name?
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie
Nielsen.
Nielsen.
Oh my God, I thought he was so foxy.
Well, there is a comedy made in the late 80s with him playing the priest and Linda Blair,
Yes.
and it's called Repossessed.
I was totally gonna watch it, then I got divorced.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We can still come over to our house and watch it. You have a copy?
Can I do that?
No,
Yeah,
can we
do that?
I don't know why I don't, but
Is
I
it?
don't.
Well, we could probably find it.
Well,
You should
yeah,
come
do
over
or
once we
something.
get to
Can
Halloween.
we?
Yes,
I would love to
absolutely.
do that.
Absolutely.
I would love to do that. But
Yeah,
you're
so
not,
we're still
you're
we
out of
still haven't
town
done
now.
Chinese yet.
Now I'm still
I know. We should do that first. Chinese first, repossessed second.
Well, maybe if yes.
But go ahead.
I was going to say something. I
No,
didn't say
Repossessed.
anything. I
Why
still
do you
love it.
like that so much?
It's just so it's
It's
funny.
I haven't
It's
seen that in a
dumb
long
humor.
time. Ned
Yeah.
Beatty's in it too.
Ned Beatty's in
Yeah.
it. It just makes me laugh every time. It's
Have you seen it lately?
no. I mean, I saw it like 5 years ago.
Does it stand up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'll find out. We'll find out this Halloween.
The whole montage exercise scene where with Leslie Nielsen in the gym preparing for the exorcism. Classic.
Repossessed. All right, James.
I'm getting my movies confused. What's
They're the
one?
things that show on the screen.
Thanks, Chad.
They're made of.
What's the one that I always talk about with where the kid is possessed?
Insidious.
Insidious. Insidious gets to me. I don't know how. I don't think it's at all accurate, but Insidious gets to me.
And is that not really an exorcism film though?
No, but it's the fact that the kid
It is a possession film.
It's a possession film, and the reason that gets to me is I've told Joe before. If I go to my house tonight and I'm chilling on Remora, and a ghost or a demon
You should
walks
not
through,
give out his address.
I didn't give out my
1,
full
2,
address.
3, 4 Remora
I didn't give out my address.
Avenue.
Yeah.
But
you're there and
Punxsutawney.
you're watching.
yeah,
it.
and
Iowa.
then something comes in, or I literally get the feeling. I have that moment of cold.
Mhm.
I'll sell the house. There's other houses, and there's somebody out there that would love to live in that house. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
At
That
1,
being
2,
said,
3, 4 Remora.
Now on Zillow.com.
Now on
Yeah.
Zillow.
Yeah. I agree with you though.
I think when it's your kid,
You
and,
can't
and
just
that's
get
why
rid of them,
Insidious
kid. They're
gets to me.
hard.
No,
to get-
about that being a very good movie about
Because I think what
They're
what am
hard
I?
to get rid of kids.
It's not like I'm literally going to be able to go. Okay, listen, I love my son, but turns out he's now 2 people, and I'm going to need you to take him at this orphanage, and I'm going to move and change my name, and so I mean I think, And that was actually one thing I wanted to bring up because one of the things that I ran across as far as people talking about exorcisms and the difference between possessions and exorcisms and things like that was this idea also of exorcising objects and houses and things like that.
Yeah.
Particularly, and what I found was it was very common among shamans and things like that you would need to do almost an exorcism on an area. And I was wondering what people thought about that, because that was really, they were talking about just to restore the order of nature. That, there would be areas where the rain wouldn't come anymore and all this stuff would happen, and that not to put it in ways Joe can understand, the ground turned sour.
Yeah.
And I'm really, I was reading that, and
The ground is sour. Sour.
I always thought, because I always think exorcism with people, but they were talking about
explosion
that
at
it
the
was a
Crab
very
Baby
similar
Factory.
process to how shamans would treat
Yeah.
people that were
Johnny Depp when you said that.
oppressed or possessed or something else.
Yeah.
And
But that I probably get I get those messages probably 2 or 3 times a month. My house is demonically infested, or my house is haunted, or things like that. I would say in the last 5 years, I've only known about 4 people who actually had something like that happening in the last 5 years. What are your favorite movies, Boo?
The Citizen Kane.
well, there was a lot. He was possessed and he was oppressed a lot, but it had nothing to do.
As far as exorcism films, you guys have actually mentioned most of them. The only one that I think that people should go out and see, and I think it's gotten a little bit more play in the last few years, is Exorcist 3. William Peter Blatty did write the book for The Exorcist, and then he produced the movie and wrote the screenplay. It is directed by William Friedkin. The Exorcist 3 is actually based on his sequel to the book called Legion, and it's pretty faithful. If you've read Legion, that's Exorcist 3 for the most part. And it's a kind of I haven't watched it in a few years, but I really have a soft spot for it in my heart, and I like it quite a bit.
I own it.
As far as something that, I mean, of course, the best Exorcist film of all time is The Exorcist. Yeah. I can't argue with that. I can't say anything better, and everybody already knows that. So,
but you said something, maybe it was you.
What?
Maybe it could have been you. I forget. Someone told me about the serial killer that was in The Exorcist.
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah, on our last
Paul
episode.
Bateson.
Is that his name?
I looked him up today.
Oh, okay.
Because it crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And you said about the movie Cruising. So
yeah, he interviewed him. It's if you follow Billy Freakin'. Yeah.
That's going to be on my view probably this weekend, I would say.
Cruising?
Yeah.
Let me know how you think. Just text me.
I don't know.
Live text me as you go.
I don't know. But it is disturbing to me that, and if I'm not wrong, the sequence of events was that he was in The Exorcist first.
Yeah.
And then he lost it and killed
several. And then
they said anywhere between 1 to 7.
And then copped to a bunch so he could get a lesser term, so they could get some murders off the books.
He was released.
Did you read that part
in 2004.
Too? Yeah.
And now lives in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, I thought that was very interesting. Mm-hmm. So you have the man who died after The Exorcist was filmed, or during the process of it. Then you have that happened. The set burning, all these other things. Do you think the film The Exorcist was cursed?
No.
I don't doubt it. What do you think?
I don't think Poltergeist was cursed either.
No,
Linda Blair appearing in the Power Rangers.
Cursed. I don't think any of that's
Linda
cursed.
Blair ending up in Rick James' house, bedroom, any of that? That's kind of bizarre, though, don't you?
I didn't know about that.
You didn't know about Rick James? She avoided... You don't... Oh, my God. No, stop. I can't. That's a whole new episode.
That's a whole new episode.
I'm like, you must Google Rick James, Linda Blair. They
dated?
What is happening in this house? Like, they told
this house is not clean.
No. They
the demon of ignorance
were charged with, like, sexually assaulting this woman for, like, weeks. They had held her captive in this house. Pumped her full of drugs together. Well, allegedly... He's dead now, so he was the one that was doing time for it.
Yeah.
And Linda obviously did not do time for it. And allegedly, she was the one. I'm not going to get you all sued. That she was the one that was participating in it and actually helped bring the woman in.
Wow.
As much as I'd love to keep talking, I keep getting evil looks from our
sorry.
producer-director.
I have not shot you for an evil look yet.
It was kind of evil, Chad.
No, Ken's here. This can keep going for like 2 more hours.
Oh, I love you, Haley.
That is not the look I got
I
earlier.
love her.
Will you defend me a little bit on
You
this
will
one?
I
not
haven't
say
seen
another
her
word.
give any.
Yeah.
As a closing comment,
Was it
since
big
we're talk-
eyes?
Since we're talking about exorcism films and the cases that you've researched, what is one case that hasn't been adapted or hasn't been
Oh, that's a
used
good question.
that you would
As
think
opposed to
would
what he
be a
usually
compelling?
says.
I think the story of Maurice. I think that would be. It's shocking to me that hasn't been made into a film yet.
Why?
Warner Brothers, my good friends at Warner Brothers, I know a couple. They should do something about that.
Because I agree. That's when I was reading through cases.
I'm actually going to go home and I'm going to email my friends at Warner Brothers and Fox. I have a couple friends at Fox. We need to contact
If they
them.
need a writer for that,
Well, the people I know are only in accounting.
that's okay.
They don't have any.
That's more
authority
than
in
what
that.
we've got.
But yeah, I think his story is like so unbelievably twisted that not even Charlize Theron could do it. Do you know what I
You
mean?
telling the story about showing up, I had my popcorn, had my
$40
nachos.
I mean, in concessions food, which is what I do every time I go to the movies.
You're insane.
Yeah.
In a good way. I love
If
you.
you went with me, you would be like, I love him.
I love you before I go.
He has everything I need to make this movie good.
I love you before you go.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, you're insane.
Well,
But most of my friends are,
perfect.
and I'm slightly insane.
Slightly.
All right, fine.
You'd have to be.
I basically have to be.
all the interesting people have.
All the interesting
I
people
agree.
have
I mean,
quirks and
yeah,
weirdnesses
I
and
think-
things like that.
But I'll say this: thank you all very much for
For
having
what?
me on again.
no, we love
Yeah,
having you.
really.
Come back-
Thank you.
Come back to the basement and spend
Let's
time.
be honest. Out of the 4 of us, you're the most popular.
I thank you for that. I don't believe that that's true. but
I believe it's
appreciate
totally
it.
true.
Yeah.
In most groups, you're the most
Well,
popular.
can I say
Every
this?
once in a while, I might. It has to be a very specific group,
Uh-huh.
but most of the time, you're most popular.
I
And
appreciate
you're always more charming.
Well, and
than
I can
Now-
I can say from analyzing YouTube data, your second appearance on our show has the longest amount of time viewed. Like people-
Mine?
Yes.
You don't have the most views, but what you have is people watch the whole episode.
Like they are compelled to watch the entire thing.
We hadn't told you that?
I didn't know that.
No, you are. Yes, you are. People love to hear you talk about this stuff.
But like the network of VidiSpace, they said to me that people, which they can subscribe to the whole
Mhm.
network or something like that. They don't do that with my show. They actually just go and buy the whole season, and they don't want anything else. They just want that. They just want that. But that's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. You said boggle.
But it does. It boggles my mind
Yeah.
because I don't get it. I don't see that. I don't understand.
It's
it.
true.
Thank you very
When
much.
it comes to YouTube, you're is it the second one or the first?
no, it's. I mean, as far as our
But we
total
did pretty good on
amount,
Facebook too. I
Yeah,
thought. Our
total
Facebook
amount of
video.
time.
We do
viewed,
always. We do really well.
You have the total amount of time viewed. You are the highest one, and I actually think it's because, as being sincere here, is that we have these conversations. We have some laughs. But it actually also gets to the point of what these topics are actually about.
We
And-
usually
and what I'm
do
doing.
more of a serious show with you.
Well, and in this being a Halloween episode, I think that this is perfect for Halloween. Get yourself
yeah.
a tub of popcorn, turn on the SoundCloud, sit back and carve a pumpkin even,
Yeah,
listen to this
yeah.
and hang out. I think it's just
Yeah, turn the
great.
lights off because I think there's a couple
Not while
stories.
carving a pumpkin.
Well, let's see what happens.
I mean, you'll lose a digit that
I'm
way.
not
I think.
encouraging you all to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume they'd leave the lights on while they carve the pumpkin. I can't be held responsible for
words that
everybody-
he said?
for things that I've said, for court dates that are missed, for... I can't be held responsible for all that. I'm a free
You're
spirit.
just a man.
I'm just a man.
You're just a man.
I'm just a
So-
man
so
with a
help-
free
I love
spirit.
these shoes.
So help me
his-
if he
his-
starts doing Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer or whatever Phil Hartman used to do.
I was
I don't
actually-
understand
Oh,
how this
yeah.
works.
Yeah.
I
I'm
was
just a
going to
kid.
do the chicken in the future from Futurama. I'm just a chicken.
I may not be a big city lawyer.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you all so much for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome.
I said thank you all. I don't know why. Everybody can screw off except Ken and
Aw.
Haley. I like Haley. Haley. Anyway.
I drove 9 hours to be
Poor,
talked down
poor
to.
Haley. Yeah, well, and see your kids, hopefully. But yeah.
Well, Comes and goes.
They're going. They're going to be 21, watching this or listening to it. Daddy never loved me.
Oh. No, Daddy loves them more than anything.
Daddy never loved me. I got proof.
That's why I took the job in the first place. If I was only responsible for myself, I don't know what I'd be doing.
You and I would be split in an apartment someplace.
Come
Probably.
and knock on my door.
When Mr. Roper, what do I say when Mr. Roper calls? I don't know.
I can't answer this door right now.
I would be wearing that. What is it that she wore all the time, Mrs. Roper?
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
caftan thing.
By the way-
I'm totally going to get like 9 of those.
By the way, why do we live in a world where everything's getting remade and nobody has done the gender reversal of that? Where we have...
Well, I just read they're going to do a gender reversal of the Golden Girls called Silver Foxes.
Really?
And I am so into that idea.
Don't they have an old dude show right now on Fox?
That actually is not just dudes. That's got
Vicki
Carol
Lawrence
Burnett.
is
Yeah,
in
Vicki
it.
Lawrence. I don't know why I said Carol
Vicki
Burnett.
Lawrence.
But yes,
Close enough, James.
Yeah,
Close
James.
enough.
but no, I just no, I agree because no, I'm excited about that as long as they don't mess it up. Because if you taint the Golden
Well,
Girls
I think
for me,
I
I'm
think it's
gonna-
so far removed from the Golden Girls. I just think the archetype characters are still present.
as long as that's the case.
I know we're getting way off topic.
So
aren't we?
sorry.
No,
I'm so
we're sorry. So this has been our Halloween episode. Anything to add before we go?
Boom! Oh, fuck me!
Is that an invite
Hold
for
on.
That
everybody?
is not even close. You're going to have to edit that.
Hold on.
Mr.
I think I
Boggle,
peed a little.
Mr. on the couch. You know what I paid for that?
Hold on.
$20 on the Craigslist.
No, it was free.
Oh no!
Shut the front door.
Shut the door.
Shut the front door. Chad's mother-in-law knew a lady and killed her, and I was able to get this. This was the one thing that didn't have blood on it at the crime scene, and it matches a chair that Chad had that his father left, and I'm not making any of this up. That is the world's most comfortable chair, and I love this couch. It's just down here, and now the cats have scratched the crap out of it, but I just love
It's very
this couch.
comfortable.
So
It's
anyway,
As far
It's
as
ugly
far
as
as
hell.
closing comments, if Boo didn't get to you,
Maybe Bay will.
oh God in heaven,
You shouldn't laugh at your own jokes, but damn, that was good. Damn! Just keep on throwing them and lobbing them up, James,
ahead,
and I'll
Love
keep
Rob.
on
power
cracking them down.
If that didn't scare you, here's a couple more things that will. Look at the political state of the country.
Trump's in the White House.
That
Look
we-
at your governor if you live in Kentucky.
Whew, God.
Let's keep on going.
By the way, does anybody know how the shave vote came out?
Nobody cares. Keep going. What are the scary?
You're very depressing me right now.
What are
I
the
don't
other
know.
scary
That's what I'm saying.
things?
So if none of this scares you, if Boo didn't scare you, just literally look at the world around you because something's coming to get you.
Yeah,
Basically,
that's so true.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if
None
you
of
think,
us are making it out
I was
alive.
about to say, and if you think that's not true, it's me.
and on that note,
Thank you all.
subscribe.
Subscribe to Bonehead on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Subscribe and share on your social media. Ken,
Yes.
if they want to do a private reading and put money in your coffers, how do they do that?
tarotbyken.com. Or you can email me at houseofcardstarot@outlook.com. Or you can call or text 859-229-4833.
House of Cards, not to be confused with.
Not to be confused with
With
the
Kevin
UK
Spacey.
or the Kevin. We are in no way related to the Kevin Spacey
Hey,
situation.
say your number one more time. I'm sorry if I cut it over.
859-229-4833.
Do not text him with weird crap.
Not after like 10 p.m. Don't do it, because you will get cursed
Are
out.
you cool with it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. If you want to text or something like that, I'm down.
Really?
Yeah.
With a complete stranger.
And
Yeah.
keep in mind, I said
You
this
are-
earlier. I don't have the guts to do what he does. So if you do need help,
I
seek him
just
out.
can't. Would you do
I mean,
that?
I would
He
point
is
in the right
braver
direction.
or is dumber than me. I
That
can't
tells you
figure
how
it out.
scary the things we've talked about are. If I can give away my full phone number on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter,
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
then and this other stuff scares me. That tells you how scary the other stuff is.
I am, believe it or not, selective with people who work at some of these cons of what numbers I give out.
As well, we all should.
As
be.
well, we should.
So when
be.
you gave me 8675309, that wasn't an accurate number.
No, but my friend
It's-
Jenny lives there.
Curse you, Tommy Two-Tone.
So, all right, so please go visit our good friend Ken. Spend all your money there and subscribe to us and share us on your social media. This has been Bonehead. Thank you so much. Happy Halloween, you boils and ghouls.
And remember, we are out in the night.
And remember, a week from now, vote.
Yeah, that's the scariest shit right there. Go out and vote. And if you're Craig, make sure that we outvote you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can smoke during the show.
Oh, thank God. I'll just leave it there.
What the fuck are you
I'm in
smoking?
the-
A pack of mints?
No, child. It is the new vapor for the discerning gentleman who would like to not carry around a big box with a nipple on it.
Who
Look.
wouldn't want to do that?
I love boxes that have nipples attached to them.
My God.
Were the cameras rolling for that? Good.
Hashtag feminism.
Hashtag me too.
Welcome to
Hashtag we're
Bonehead.
canceled.
Yeah.